So Christina Ricci she did an interview recently, and she basically says she was once threatened with a lawsuit over her refusal to perform a sex scene in a specific way. It's funny because we talk a lot about how Hollywood seems to be more depraved than usual these days. Like, it's getting worse as far as what they're actually willing to put on screen. I talk a lot about it too because I watch a lot of old shows, and I notice how little of that you see in old television shows, right? It's just far less common.
Not even like 5 years ago was it as bad as it is now.
I mean, you would still see it on cable shows, on Showtime, HBO, stuff like that. I'm not saying that it didn't happen there 20 years ago. I'm just saying, in general, it always felt like regular television was at least more willing to be a little bit cleaner with their presentation of
Sex
media.
scenes were veiled,
yes,
in a way.
A lot more veiled.
That takes more effort than just showing everything.
Exactly. And harder to do and more satisfying when it's done right most of the time. So she talks in this interview where she basically says, she talks about how the actresses today have the ability to say no. Like, if they don't want to do a sex scene, they can just say no and they don't want to.
She was saying this on The View.
Yeah, and my problem with this is we see, like, every 2 weeks, there's a new celebrity coming out with a new memoir, whether it's Pamela Anderson or whether it's Paris Hilton, whoever these people are. And what I love about it is, it makes me laugh, is I'm watching Hollywood promote these documentaries and these memoirs about how these people were abused by Hollywood while everyone pretends like everything's changed when everyone knows that literally nothing has changed. You can hire all of the intimacy coordinators you want. It doesn't stop producers from propositioning
They're just,
actresses.
Anti-MeToo liability officers. They're not there to actually make sure you're comfortable or like not take it advantage of.
Yeah, she says an inability to set boundaries for herself in her early years as an actor even extended to facing legal action. Someone threatened to sue me once because I didn't want to do a sex scene in a certain way. She stops the details there. I also love how they never name names, which means these people that are supposedly so awful just get to keep living their, just keep having their jobs.
In a certain way, probably means that she didn't want to be fully nude to film it.
Yeah, most likely.
Yeah. So she said it's amazing to see younger cast members don't necessarily have to go through things we had to go through.
Yep.
And this falls completely flat.
It does.
Because we see complaints about the same behavior come out again and again and again, post-MeToo and pre. Like, it's been this, they've been playing by the same rules for the entirety of Hollywood's existence.
You'll go to like one of these like tabloid websites or one of these trade websites like the Hollywood Reporter or MovieWeb, and right here it'll be like all the ways Hollywood has changed and cleaned up their act, and then like over here like producer, propositions girl. This is like in the same front page.
That actress from Stranger Things.
Yeah, Casper Van Dien.
What was her name?
Grace Van Dien.
Grace Van Dien, yeah. She said that she wanted to go into Twitch streaming instead of going to acting jobs because multiple times she had been, crept on by weirdo producers, one of whom literally got his girlfriend, whom he hired on the same project as her, to proposition her for a threesome. And like, we know that the implication is, if you're not favorable to my request, you can't work on this project anymore.
Do you know whose opinion I want to hear on this? Yes. Sydney Sweeney.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Because like,
she literally openly talked about the fact that Sam Levinson would try to get her to do scenes topless where it made no sense. And at some points, he was getting like almost so strong about it that she had to be like, okay, well, that seems unnecessary. And he's like, oh yeah, okay. But like, we were talking about that because, he has this track record, and then it comes out that he was writing this show for HBO Max because he's the HBO Max darling. Yep. Where Lily Rose Depp like has to actually carry an egg in her vagina. Yep.
Oh yeah,
in a scene with The Weeknd. And if she drops the egg, his character is supposed to refuse to R-word her.
Yep. That's some sick shit.
Like, you're sick in the head if you write something like that. And that's the people like this, like Sam Levinson, they just go unchecked in Hollywood all the time, but we're supposed to believe that Me Too was this big, like, reform movement that changed everything and, like, opened up so many doors for women.
First, I don't know how you sell a scene like that. It's like, trust me, it's very relevant to the plot. But, like, the reason why I want to hear Sydney Sweeney's take in particular is because I'm not particularly easy to either impress or to like shake. And I feel like she, like, all her sex scenes are, you know, as close to soft and hardcore pornography as I've ever seen in Hollywood. And she's got not only the intensity but the frequency.
Yes.
With her. So it's like, I mean, originally I was like, wow, she's really down for the cause for these shows. But I wonder, but then on the show we've also talked about that she's complained that she's broke.
Oh,
so
yeah.
like,
Well, she thinks that because you can't get in a position to retire at 25 in Hollywood that you're broke. Like, she said that she's like not making enough money because I have to keep working.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry,
also,
babe, that's what everyone has to do in life is they have to keep working in their 20s.
She chooses to live in an industry, in an area that costs a lot
and
to maintain.
A literal Calabasas mansion. So, sorry, you're not getting any tears from me.
Calabasas is nice.
Yeah.
My brother lived there for a while.
If you want to live there and you want to maintain an image, you have to have a certain amount of income to keep that up rather than moving, you know.
There are brand deals. There are countless things you can do to make extra money.
But a lot of them, they move out of there and they move to the Midwest or they move to other states later on once they've developed, once they've gotten their connections more solidified and they're doing more frequent work in the industry. I think when you're younger, it probably pays for them to stay there. But for Christina Ricci, she did come up at a different time where this would have been different. I was thinking, too, because I was just reading an article earlier about the director of Wild Things talking about how he just wouldn't be allowed to make that movie today. I'm like, really? You wouldn't? You would absolutely be allowed to make that movie today.
It's just insane to hear Christina Ricci say this and just be so like, we've got a super chat from Cardboard Knights. He said, Ian, my team has created a card game around surviving the apocalypse. We've completed the artwork and have a pre-production test copy. I would love to explore a potential partnership with your team to help promote the game.
Interesting concept. You can always send me a link.
Maybe he could like send the pre-production.
Is it more Yu-Gi-Oh or is it more
test
Magic?
version?
I need to know.
Yeah. I get a lot of this offers like this too, so it's not personal. But I mean, you can send me a text maybe on Twitter. I'm not really in charge of like business stuff around here, just so you know. I kind of flow with things.
Yeah.
All right.
So I was saying Christina Ricci is just like obviously out of touch for saying this because her own co-star on Wednesday, Jenna Ortega, has done a sex scene at the age of 18, like very, you know, close to after she turned 18 on the movie X. And it's this slasher film where the cast is like trying to produce a porn film at an abandoned farmhouse in Texas or something, and then they end up like having to deal with some killer there. But anyway, she literally did her first, like, I mean, it wasn't like crazy like Euphoria levels, but she was 18 doing that for the first time. And do you think that anyone is going to doubt her years down the line if she says she was uncomfortable with it?
They will not.
This is what I'm
That's
saying.
my
like,
problem with
Christina
it.
Ricci, this industry has not changed one bit.
And my problem with it isn't even the ladies doing it. I know you have the moral problem with people doing this stuff on screen. My problem is them doing it and then years later saying like, oh, I didn't want to.
But they say that later on because they know that it's wrong. You know,
I don't
and
know.
it's
I
the
don't
same
know if
thing
I think it's actually worse than that. I think they're actually just self-serving, and it's not even that they know that it's wrong. They know that down the line, no one's going to question their victimhood.
I think that they're subconsciously guilty about what they did.
I don't even know if I don't believe for a second that most of these people feel that level of guilt.
She took the money.
I think they're so indoctrinated into their belief systems that I don't think that level of guilt is even capable of reaching.
You can get out, Christina. You can leave that industry and start your own thing if you want. That's what I did. It's not easy, but you can do it. If you sit there and take the money, don't complain. I mean, feel free to complain, but no one's going to take you that seriously.
Also, it's another reason you're right, Mary, is that the contracts. Look, in the show Power, all of the actors in that show, and it extends to the contracts for the new shows. Now they have Power Book, Ghost, Power Book, Tommy's show. Look, all of those actors had to sign contracts when they got into that show. So you may be required to do nude scenes. If you don't want to do it, don't sign on to the show. And so you're given that option. Like, look, you can be on the show, but you may have to do this. Right? Like, then they give you it's forewarned, it's forearmed. You may be required to. You're not allowed to back out if you don't want to do this. Don't be on the show with us.
Yeah, and they pay her money. She signs the contract. She already has money in a bank, and then she's like, "Actually, I don't want to do it." That's why she got threatened to be sued, probably.
Look, and for me, it's when I listen to Paris Hilton talking now about how reading articles that label her doing a sex tape and saying that she was coerced, but what they really say is that he said that the guy could get anyone to do it for her. So she's like, so I had to do it. So I took 20 Quaaludes and drank a bunch of alcohol. I'm like, he didn't force you. He said, you have the option. I could get anyone to do this, and you chose to do it and were so messed up by it that you had to do drugs. You have to take responsibility for your own actions.
That's why I'm saying it's like this subconscious guilt that drives them to, throw all of their personal shit out there into the ether when they're not willing to take accountability. It's that too.
It's book deals.
But they're not willing to take accountability for their part in it. Yeah. Another thing is the way that they do these contracts is oftentimes extremely sleazy. We've already talked about that girl that was on House of the Dragon, who was signed on at the age of 17 with parental consent on a contract which included that she would be doing a sex scene after turning 18. Immediately after she turned 18, while she was already hired and already filming on the show, that's when they filmed her sex scenes.
And the girl from the original Game of Thrones, who was a minor the whole time she filmed the show until her 18th birthday.
But at the very least, you could say she consented to doing the sex scene after she was 18. Yeah. The girl signed a document that said she would do a sex scene when she was a minor.
Yeah.
And then they filmed it after her 18th birthday.
Yeah, there actually probably is an argument for legal.
There are disgusting people in Hollywood,
there.
Disgusting PDF files running Hollywood. In a way, and Me Too didn't touch them.
Nope. If anything,
the real powerful people will never be named.
Also, there's some absolute geniuses in the chat who said that the movie Blank Check was awesome. They are correct. The movie Blank Check is awesome. In fact, that is Brett Recommends for the day. Go watch the movie Blank Check.
What's that one?
It's a movie where a kid gets a guy gives him a check because he gets in a car.
His bicycle.
And then he writes him a check and forgets to put a number in there.
Oh, by the way, to everyone that's listening in the chat, I told Brett to watch High Fidelity before the show. I don't know if I'm just obsessed with the movie and it's not that good, or if it's something that Brett should watch. If you've seen it and you have if you have an opinion on it, put a 1 in the chat if you think he should watch it, and a 2 if you think he shouldn't. So I understand a little bit better.
Dane's seen it, so I'm gonna have to watch it. So. Dane says 1, so Dane says 1 right there. So look, it's never going to change in Hollywood, and it's interesting too because there were some comments when we were talking about the Grace Van Dien situation. It says they're legal adults, like it's none of our business, and in the truest respect of the words, they're right. They are legal adults. Technically, no crimes were committed, but it speaks to the nature of Hollywood and the way in which these producers behave. But it's still worth talking about.
Yeah, I mean, don't tell me that it's none of my business when it's being reported on and this is going on behind the scenes of all of the entertainment being churned out of Hollywood right now.
Yeah. Yep.
It's no exaggeration. It's got to be like 99% of the time.
I don't know about
weird sex perverts.
TV. It's mostly the streaming services that have just all cashed in on the fact that everything is now HBO and Showtime-esque.
Yeah,
it's not like we're going to movies and seeing.
What was really egregious about that is that Grace Van Dien did nothing to invite such behavior.
Yeah.
And if you do sex scenes and then complain about what happens afterwards or people's reaction to it, then too bad you did it. You consented to it. If you're an adult, sure. And also, I think like these women who have done sex scenes and then complain about being shamed for it. It's like, you also perpetrated yourself on the culture. Like, you did something wrong.
Well, most of them
to coarsen the culture.
But I think a lot of them in their minds, what they're agreeing to is that sex scenes aren't inherently bad. But naturally, it's the ones that are tastefully done and the ones that are not tastefully done.
Well, yeah, like whenever they do them, they can usually give you a pretty detailed answer about why the art is important, why the art of it is important. Yeah. Why does that?
Sam Levinson doesn't have any type of explanation.
Well, why doesn't the art keep them warm at night when they come back to complain later about why it was exploitative? Right? Either it was art when you were younger, like you said, or it's something worth complaining about. But you have to be honest.
And also, but like what I'm trying to say is like, so portraying the first moment of intimacy between two characters can be an incredibly powerful thing for the story, for the character development and whatnot. But more often than not, it's a selling point. It's like, hey, you want to see these girls' boobies?
I thought Titanic did it really well with Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet. There, I think that she was nude in the movie. Whenever I think about the movie, that never enters my mind until now. We're talking about the sex scene in the movie. I forgot that she was nude in the movie because the movie was so good.
I don't even know if there's actual nudity scene during the sex scene.
No, there's not. It's like hand on the window.
Yeah,
it's just
down at the steamy wetness. Like it was
the portrait scene.
I think you see boobies.
Yeah, see, there it is. But James Cameron, he's a genius.
But there's that. There's you could do it like that, or you could do it like Swordfish, where they were literally advertising the movies like, "Hey guys, you want to see Halle Berry's tits? Come watch Swordfish." That was literally the promo. I remember Halle Berry being the MTV movie where it's like, "If you want to see these," legit.
Seriously, she said that?
On God.
What?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Dane's face.
Okay, well,
Batman Forever.
It's a pop culture storm.
by the way, before we started, Brett's like, I need you to move more to the left.
Could you be closer to the speaker, please?
Is that you screaming on the recording? Is that you screaming or is that Dane?
It's from a movie. It's from Batman Forever. The whole thing is from Batman
I want to hear
Forever.
Dane just like in the background.
I clipped.
It can't be done.
I clipped the great scream of Phil's yesterday. So that will be part of the crisis party for next week.
Dude.
So that will be good.
I was taking notes one day on IRL, and Luke's like, "Hey, Phil, give a scream," and I didn't think he was gonna go for it, and he blew my eardrums off. My God.
Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.